The Frozen Wilds will be the only expansion for Horizon Zero Dawn, Guerrilla Games said via Twitter. We of course first knew that the Frozen Wilds was the only DLC they were working on at the moment, but now all our hopes for a second DLC are gone. But is that a bad thing though? Let's unpack this news in this video. If you like that, then like would be super appreciated, and let's go. If you follow my content for a while, then you know that I was always about expanding the game we have now. Of course, it would be awesome if we got an outfit system that was more fleshed out with different gear pieces, if we got to fly a Stormbird, if we got more diverse melee combat, things that I think are hard to pull off in an expansion to Horizon Zero Dawn. But still, the game we have now is already great. Everyone loves it, and the only thing we want at this point are more quests, weapons and machines to kill. Just new things to do in this awesome world, and the Frozen Wilds will give us that, and that's obviously why I can't wait. But there are still so many mysteries left in the world that I want to uncover with the game we have now. It would be a shame if we would have to wait for a couple of years to return to the world of Horizon. The game we have now is already amazing. Games as a service is a term we hear a lot these days. Titles that get supported a lot after launch with new patches and content to keep the people coming back for more. Games like Rocket League, The Division, but we also see this more in single player open world RPGs right now. The Witcher 3 for example, with multiple free updates after launch including new gear and quests, and the 2 expansions, with the last one hitting a year after the release. And now in 2017, Assassin's Creed Origins has a live content director that focuses on daily and weekly activities to keep us coming back for more. And Warner Bros. Already said that they will support their open world single player RPG for at least 18 months after launch into early 2019. Adding new content that we know is present in the expansion pass and probably even more. Don't get me wrong, I think the many Horizon Zero Dawn patches and additions in the form of a really great ultra hard mode that really makes you play differently in order to survive, and the new game plus mode are great too, and I can only imagine that the Frozen Wilds will be amazing as well. There's just so much more teased in the game that we wanted to see and that they could add in terms of expansions. There are tribes that are still not fully explored. The Forbidden West that sounds epic and dangerous with machines, quote, more strange and terrible than any found in Sundom, end quote. Yes, give me that area, yes I want to explore that. Sounds like a pretty good expansion to me, with machines that are terrifying, so high-end stuff. Now I think we will get to explore this area in the sequel. It's of course a huge compliment for Guerrilla Games to have their fans be sad that the Frozen Wilds is the only expansion, showing that everyone just wants to keep playing this game. On the other hand, I fully respect their choice to move on and leave the base game as it is. I think in the long term this is the best decision.
But today, on behalf of everyone at Guerrilla Games, I am delighted to finally unveil our newest franchise.
The franchise Horizon Zero Dawn is a multiple year plan. Guerrilla wants to stay with Aloy for many years to come. Job listings also suggest that the next project from Guerrilla Games is an open world RPG with machines. I've of course already mentioned this in multiple videos. So yes, a sequel is coming, and I think sooner than we might expect for multiple reasons. At the peak of the Horizon Zero Dawn development, Guerrilla Games had 250 people working in their studio, according to the executive producer Angie Smets in an interview with the Dutch NOS. This was for the last 3 years of development, and even without the outsourcing they continuously do for art assets, for example. 250 people is a lot, and my point is that this is the exact number of people working at Guerrilla Games right now, with even more job openings on their website. So yeah, obviously this year a lot of them worked on the expansion. I totally believe that they started working on this after the game was done, but at this point they are polishing it. It should be almost done to hit the November 7th release date, meaning that the over 250 people are now moving on to the sequel, and some of them probably already hard at work on the next game. Starting out with 250 plus people, something that was the peak for the first game, means that they will go in super aggressive and that we might see it relatively soon. Moving on from the first person shooter series that is Killzone to the open world RPG that is Horizon Zero Dawn was an enormous undertaking, I can imagine. But now that they got the engine working, already made a lot of machines, so they probably understand how to do it, got the story and probably a lot of ideas in place to expand the game, for example with the things I mentioned earlier in this video. I think they can really just go in full force into making the things they want become a reality. Something Herman also said at the Dutch Film Festival: now that we got the base, they can make new stories relatively easy. The base game was 3 years in full production, with another 3 years before that where a smaller part of Guerrilla Games worked on Horizon Zero Dawn, So I think that it's safe to say that the sequel will take 3 years to make. In between the Killzone games on PS3 we saw 2 years, starting with Killzone 2 in early 2009, Killzone 3 in early 2011, and Killzone Shadowfall at the end of 2013. So yes, Horizon Zero Dawn, an open world RPG with more content to create, takes longer to make. Also looking at the PS4 generation and the exclusive releases, we can totally say that they take longer to make. Where we saw 4 games from Naughty Dog in the PS3 lifecycle, here we will probably see 2, not counting Uncharted The Lost Legacy, since that's basically a DLC pack they expanded on. Quantic Dream will probably release 1 game this generation called Detroit Become Human, while in the PS3 cycle we saw Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. Looking at another sequel to a open world RPG, Shadow of War, that also took 3 years to make, with the first game coming out in 2014. Of course, all the game studios are different, things might happen, etc, etc, but I think this shows you that while Guerrilla Games created Killzone games in 2 years, I think that the sequel for Horizon will take a little over 3 years. So then we're looking at a 2020 date, the year we will likely see the PlayStation 5 if it has not launched yet in 2019. Before I make this into a PlayStation 5 prediction video, I think it's important to note that I think that Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or whatever they will call it, probably Horizon the Forbidden West. Anyway, I think it would be stupid to make it a PlayStation 5 exclusive. You want to grow this franchise, have as much people play it. I mean, they're even now releasing Funko Pops, merchandise, and maybe even Legos in the future, who knows. A lot of people already made it and it looks really cool. So to release it on a hardware that might have around the 100 million consoles in the wild is way smarter than to strand it on a console that just started. Yes, if it was a PlayStation 5 exclusive, it would totally be a system seller, but on the other hand they can also just do a PlayStation 5 remastered edition like they did with The Last of Us on PS4, or like Nintendo did with Zelda. They also launched that of course on Wii U and it still became a big seller on the Switch. So yeah, it's sad that after the Frozen Wilds we have to wait for a while for a new adventure with Aloy, while other similar games that come out around this time will have more content, more support after launch. On the other hand, in the long run this will be better, I think. We will get a completely new game sooner than if they would support Horizon Zero Dawn for longer, where Guerrilla Games can now just look at all the feedback they got from the base game, flesh it out even more with deeper systems, and add of course more machines. Now it's kind of sad, but when we see the trailer at E3 2019, I would imagine with the return of Aloy, that will really be a glorious moment. Right now, let's not forget that we still got the Frozen Wilds before us, and that sounds really awesome too, and we really have not seen a lot about that, so really a ton of stuff is still coming our way. I want to hear your take on this news, of course, in the comments down below. Subscribe to stay up to date on everything Horizon Zero Dawn, like this video to support the channel, and I will speak to you next time, hopefully with new Horizon Zero Dawn DLC news. So speak to you then, goodbye.